What is going on YouTube? James here, aka Duke Snaps, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my first official video for my YouTube channel, and I'm super excited to get up here and talk to you guys for the very first time. So the point of this video is kind of just introduce you to who I am as a wildlife photographer, how I got into wildlife photography, what I do, how much of it am I really into it, and then kind of just discuss what my plans and what my goals are for this YouTube channel. Welcome to my channel. I hope you all enjoy it. Like I said, I'll talk a little bit about what got me into photography. I'll talk a little bit about what my goals are for this channel. And then also a couple weeks ago on Instagram, I gave my followers the opportunity to ask me some basic general open-minded questions, and I'll be answering those at the end of this video as well. So first, what got me into wildlife photography? Honestly, I get asked this question. I've been asked this question a few times, and I've always been fascinated with wildlife. I've always liked animals. Most of my interaction with wildlife was limited to like documentaries on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something. So I've been extremely limited to what my interaction is with wildlife, but I've always been fascinated with it. One day my wife was just like, hey, you should just go out and take photos and see what happens. So I started off with my Sony A6400, which is the camera that I'm using to record this video right now. And then also the lens that I'm using is a 35 millimeter 2.8 lens. And I just kind of went outside and just started taking like random landscape shots. And I really enjoyed it. It was peaceful. It brought me, like a feeling of tranquility, and like I was really at ease when I was just like outside taking photos. And I got on Instagram, I got on YouTube, and I just started looking up and researching wildlife photography. Some of the bigger names like Simon D'Entremont, and some other big names on YouTube and on Instagram. I kind of just started noticing like, hey man, like animal photography or like wildlife photography, specifically animals, looks super cool. So I started doing my research, and I purchased a telephoto lens, a zoom lens, which was the 55 to 210 millimeter Sony lens. And I mean, it was awesome. I loved it. If you've been following me early on in my Instagram, you'll see that I got a lot of squirrel photos. And squirrels are super abundant here. The eastern gray squirrel is like really abundant here in North Carolina. So I was practicing a lot with eastern gray squirrels, just honing on my techniques, trying to learn the basics, aperture, f-stop, shutter speed, things like that, just to learn the extreme basics of photography. And then a couple of months after that, so that all started in December of 2023, and then I want to say around February, I believe, is when I was just like, all right, I love this. I really want to do this. Let's invest in a good lens and see if we can get better photos. So that's when I invested in. So like I said, originally I started off with this one. This is the 55 to 210. I don't want to talk too much about equipment or anything, but this is the lens that I started off with. Really good, beginner's lens if you're looking to get into wildlife photography. I think it was about like 300 bucks or something like that. It was inexpensive, but like I said, 55 to 210 was a really good starting point for me. And then this is what I used for a couple months to really just hone in on my techniques, and to really learn and grasp the basics of wildlife photography. And then around February, I was like, let's really, if we're gonna do this, let's really do this. So I invested in the 200 to 600 millimeter GOSS Sony lens, and I absolutely love this lens. It's honestly, it's not that hard to carry around. When I first got it, it definitely had to get used to it, but now I'm super used to it. And this is literally my go-to lens. This is the only lens that I really use for wildlife photography, and I mean, I love it. 200 to 600 millimeters is like the perfect range. It sucks because sometimes I do find myself in situations where I'm up close to wildlife, and the focal length for this is too far out, and I have to either create space between me and the subject, or I just have to chuck it up as a loss, maybe take a picture with my iPhone, and then call it a day. But yeah, once I got the 200 to 600, it was pretty much all she wrote from that, and I've just been doing wildlife photography since then. So it's been a really cool journey. I've met a lot of cool people online, like along the way. You guys are awesome, always showing me love, always giving me support, and always letting me know how much better I have gotten since I started, and then how much better I continue to get. So, having that good community around me is just one thing that I'm working on. I really just want to build a really cool community around me as it relates to wildlife photography, which is why I'm integrating my reach through multiple platforms. So right now I do have Instagram, I have Facebook, and I have YouTube. So you can find all the links to all my different channels and to all my different pages on each respective platform. So Instagram will have the links to my YouTube and my Facebook. Facebook will have the links to my Instagram and YouTube has my links to Facebook and Instagram. So yeah, if you don't follow me on all three, try to follow me on all three. I know some people don't use social media platforms that way or that much, but you know, I'm glad you all are here today on my YouTube, and I'm just really excited to continue to grow as a wildlife photographer. So what is my goal for my YouTube channel? The biggest thing I want to do on my YouTube, or the two biggest things that I want to accomplish on my YouTube, is the one, bring awareness to wildlife. The way that the world is going now, there's a lot of endangered species, there's a lot of land that's being destroyed to build up infrastructure, and I just want, you know, people to have a voice. And if that's through my social media, if that's through my channel, then that's a successful channel for me. And I just want to show people that wildlife is beautiful. Animals, landscapes, plants, insects, everything is it's beautiful in its own way. And I don't feel like, you know, as being the dominant human species on Earth, we have the right necessarily to destroy, you know, ideally the families and the homes of other wildlife. So, you know, my goal with my YouTube channel is just to kind of raise awareness and show people how beautiful wildlife really is. Additionally, I want my channel to kind of be a safe place for beginner photographers, especially beginner wildlife photographers. When I first started, it was an abundance of profiles and YouTube channels and pages and a lot of information that it took me a long time to cipher through, you know, what was bull crap and then what was like legit stuff. And I think a lot of people will just tell you to buy the most expensive equipment right off the bat. Me personally, I don't think you have to do that. Yes, I did invest in a $1,700 lens, but that was a choice that I was able to make based on my financial stability, and based on my desires and my want to grow as a photographer and to create better photos. But I feel like if you're just starting off, if you get a really decent base camera, like a camera body, save money from the camera body and then get a more expensive lens, I think you'll be better off that way. Especially if you're looking to do wildlife photography, I do recommend something that can reach out to at least 400. Obviously, do what you can afford, you know, handle what you can afford, but you don't always have to spend, you know, the most money on your equipment to be a really good photographer. I spent months using the 55 to 210 for a while, just because, like I said, I wanted to understand the basics of wildlife photography first. So I was literally out every day just, you know, practicing different techniques, getting eye level with the subject, messing around with my settings to see what I preferred. And that'll be in a later video. I'll let you know what my camera settings are, what I use on a regular basis. But it's just all those things that you have to get familiar with. And my mindset going into it was that if I can understand, if I can master the basics now, when I get a better lens and when I get put in a situation where I have like an exotic animal or I have like a one in a lifetime opportunity, I understand the basics of wildlife photography and I will not mess that opportunity up. So that's my gem for you guys right now. My one tip for y'all in this video: if you want to get better at wildlife photography, please just focus on mastering the basics. Don't get caught up in the money. Don't get caught up in how you're going to make money as a photographer. Don't get caught up in, you know, how much money you need to spend on gear. Don't get caught up on the gear or the equipment. Just understand the basics, learn the basics, get better at the basics, and just have fun doing what you love to do. Right now, I do not make money doing wildlife photography. It's solely just a hobby that I really enjoy doing. On a weekly basis, I probably go out and do photography every single day. I feel like it's one of those hobbies that the more you put into it, the more energy, the more effort that you put into it, the more energy that you'll get back and you'll receive from it. Bigger opportunities, networking, meeting more people, getting face to face with different, you know, pieces of wildlife, whether you like the animal aspect, whether you like the landscape or the plants, whatever it is, the more you're out there, the more opportunities you'll get, the more experience you'll get, and the better you'll be. So like I mentioned early in the video, to end this video, I do want to answer just a couple of questions that I either already answered on Instagram and my YouTube followers didn't get a chance to hear them, or they're questions that I got asked and I just screenshot them and I didn't answer them on my Instagram. Now, I did delete my screenshots or at least most of them, so I do have a couple of screenshots left over, and then I will just answer some of the questions that I recently just answered on my story, on my Instagram story. So first question was, if you weren't photographing wildlife, what would you be photographing? And my answer to this question was I would definitely be doing landscape. people ask me all the time, like, hey, why don't you photograph people? It's easy money, blah, blah, blah. People are too concerned with things that they shouldn't be concerned about. I don't want to have, one, that pressure on me, and then two, I don't want to put that financial pressure on someone else, because oftentimes people's expectations of a product don't necessarily match the amount of money or the amount of time that they're willing to put in for it. I don't want to deal with people. I hardly like dealing with people as it is. So I really enjoy doing wildlife. Animals don't argue with you. Yeah, they can be a little bit difficult sometimes if they don't pose the perfect way for you. But that's to the most extent that I'll have issues with wildlife. People, they just have too high expectations, and I just don't want to be able to tell someone, no, I'm not doing that because you're not willing to pay enough money for it. Another question I got asked on Instagram was, where do you live? Funny enough, on Instagram, I just put in a house. It was kind of creepy the way that they asked me on Instagram. But here on YouTube, I do live in North Carolina, the East Coast. I've been living here for a while now, about 3 years now, and I like it. A lot of wildlife. We kind of get a little bit of all of the environments that you want. So we do get mountains, we have beaches, and then we also have like swampy areas as well. So yeah, I live in North Carolina. It's really cool for wildlife photography. I like it. I also got asked, what's your main job besides photography? So photography actually is not a job for me. I don't make money doing photography, like I said earlier in the video, but I do. I'm in the Army. I'm active duty military Army, and I work with information security. So my job specifically is just there to protect government information. That's all I do. It's not the most exciting job, but it pays well, and I get pretty good benefits, and it allows me to fund being a photographer on the side, like as a hobby. So I get to spend money doing the photography, and one day hopes that I will start making money off of photography. But yes, information security is what I do as my main job. And my wife asked me, what's your wife's favorite picture? Actually, I don't know what my wife's favorite picture is, but my answer to the question was probably all of them, because she's just extremely supportive of what I do. I'm super appreciative of my wife. Um, you know, she doesn't give me too many issues, or she doesn't get too upset when I'm going out all the time to get wildlife photography. And even when I do get photos, if I have a bad day or if I have a good day, regardless, she's super supportive, and I'm blessed, and I'm really appreciative of all the support that my wife gives me. Another question I got asked was, do you have a spark animal that got you into wildlife photography? No specific animal got me into wildlife photography. However, there are some animals that I really, really want to be able to photograph. I really want to be able to photograph an elk, which is pretty cool for where I am. There's Smoky Mountains and Blue Ridge Mountains typically have elk, so I'll probably be able to go out there and get some opportunities to go out there and photograph some elk. My favorite animal is a red panda. They are endangered, and I'm almost positive, you know, captivity is probably the only place where I'll be able to see a red panda. And I don't, you know, that's not wildlife photography. I go to somewhere that's like a captivity. Or like a zoo or something to take a picture of a red panda. That's not really wildlife. So the odds of me seeing a red panda in the United States in the wild is like 0. But maybe I'll travel to Asia one day and try to see if I can find one in the wild. But no spark animal, but those two animals are definitely, and dolphins. Definitely dolphins are some animals that I definitely want to be able to photograph throughout my career as a wildlife photographer. Another question, could you recommend a mentor who has inspired you in your point of view or in your work? This is hard because there's a lot of people that I like. A lot of people that I like. So as it relates to YouTube, Simon D'Entremont, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He'll probably never see this video anyway. But Simon D'Entremont, he's actually just recently moved to Canada. And I mean, all his videos on YouTube have helped me become the photographer that I am today. Our editing style isn't necessarily the same, but just learning the basics, I had to kind of dig through some of his old videos a little bit, but he does a really good job explaining the basics, and then he does a really good job explaining more complex aspects of photography too, like breaking down the components of your camera, you know, breaking down aperture, what does it mean, f-stop, all that stuff. So I definitely recommend Simon D'Entremont. Another person that I really, really is, her name on Instagram is Danny Going Ham. And I'm pretty sure if you're into wildlife photography and you're on Instagram, you've seen some of her posts before. A lot of her posts have gone viral. And she was actually one of the first like big accounts that followed me back and started, giving me feedback and started helping me out and really motivating me to be a better photographer. And I love her editing style. I love the range of her editing because she can take the minimalist approach, which is my primary approach to editing, where she just kind of like improves the color, improves the contrast and stuff like that. But she also does like really dope edits as well, and it's her style, right? I learned from Simon D'Entremont that when someone looks at your photo at a certain point, they should be able to tell like, hey, that's Duke Snap's photo. Like I know his editing style. That's definitely his photo. And I feel like Danny has that, which is why I'm just like super fascinated by her artwork and her photography. So other than Danny going ham, Julian Martin, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but Julian Martin was the very first large account that followed me. And his photography is freaking dope. I remember the first time I saw both his photography and his videography. When I first saw it, I was super fascinated by, excuse me, not only the exotic animals that he captures, but also his editing style. Like it's not too much, it's not too crazy. It's just enough to make all the details just pop out a little bit more. So yeah, Julian is another great artist or great photographer that I like. And I'll show you guys both of their accounts, so if you want to go give them a follow, you can. As an artist, when you see something that you just can relate to and that you find, nice and that you want to be able to produce on that level, you just get attracted to it and you get attached to it. And that's just kind of how it was when I first saw Julian's page. So big shout out to Julian. Thanks again, man, for always, being open to DMing me and talking to me and just seeing the potential that I have as a wildlife photographer. It really means a lot. And like I said, her editing style is super dope too. And again, Danny, thanks for always being open to DMing me and kind of just shooting messages with me, talking to me about editing and just keeping me motivated too. And also just seeing the potential in me as a wildlife photographer. I really appreciate it. This does conclude my video. I really appreciate all of you. Even if you're just sitting here watching, listening to me today, I really appreciate you. Like I said, if you only follow one or two of my socials, please consider following my other socials. Again, please leave likes, leave comments. Consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. In the future, I do want to start a series called Walk With Me. It's a wildlife series that I'm going to start where pretty much I'm wearing a GoPro and I'm just walking around taking photos, and then I'm going to consolidate all of the interactions that I had or all the photos that I was able to capture, consolidate it into like a 5 to 8 minute video, and then put it on YouTube for you guys to watch. And I hope it's something that you all can relate to, something that you guys can find entertaining, you guys can enjoy. And in addition to those videos, periodically I will be dropping other videos, like informative videos, like 3 tips to make you a better photographer, or 3 things that you should be doing as a wildlife photographer. Things like that to kind of just help young upcoming beginner wildlife photographers understand the ins and outs of wildlife photography. I appreciate you all. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for tuning into this YouTube video, and I will catch you all in the next one.